The best opening for black under 2000 ELO starts with this simple move d6. You can play it against absolutely everything. That is why this is the easiest I have ever seen, yet it's so powerful. It helped me to become an international master, as well as hundreds of my students to achieve their chess goals so much faster. You play the move e5. Here, the Philidor defense starts and they can take on e5. So many players are afraid of it or say this is not active enough. In fact, this is the best line, the highest win rate line that I ever have found in chess. I have won pretty much every single game I played here, and I'm playing against a very strong Indian guy, 2300 rated plus. Let's see how I'm gonna be able to implement this plan over here. Whether they take or not, our main plan is always to attack on the queen side. Please remember that. We also bring our knight all the way to c5, where it's so powerful. It's controlling so many squares, and it's very difficult for white to do something about that. Just remember this move c6. Very important, because that controls all of the squares, active squares, this knight can go forward. And then this knight is just stupid. But the players with white, they do not understand it, especially if you're under 2000 ELO. People just maintain this knight there forever until they realize, okay, it's so stupid, I have to do something about it, but it's just too late. And you see, even here, my opponent, very strong one, struggles to find the right idea, because he sees this position like once out of 500 games, whereas I play it every single time. So I have so much experience here, and I can make all of my moves pretty much immediately. And this is exactly the type of result you're gonna get. By the way, I teach this opening in all of the details in my 10-day opening master course that you can get right now with 50% discount, lifetime opening repertoire both for white and black, and I give you a full month of live coaching with me, where I'm gonna help you get so much better in chess completely for free. It's included in the course. Check the link in the description to grab your limited spot. They castle, very normal development here, but we just go knight b to d7. And then they play knight to e3, attacking this pawn. We can go both to c7 and e8. King to e8 is more flexible because we are also defending that pawn on f7. King to c7 has another idea. If they play bishop c4, then we jump with knight g4, also very powerful, aggressive idea. But that one is simple enough because you can play it against absolutely everything. They can also play bishop c4 immediately here, attacking the pawn, and then we play king e8. And so, not to confuse you, you can just play king to e8 every single time. Now you're ready for the attack, for the main part of our plan. Just go forward with our pawns. So let's say they play bishop c4, very typical move. We go b5, immediately start creating those threats. And that's exactly what happened. And here, a lot of people just get into trouble kind of immediately, because they play bishop b3, and then we go a5. We immediately create a threat of trapping that bishop. As simple as that, it's only move number 9. Okay, the second choice is to go backwards, but then they block their own rook here, and you know, it's clearly not that active. They also waste time, right? Because they played bishop c4, bishop d3 backwards. Meanwhile, we have developed our pawn to b5 where it's supposed to be. This is the most active square, the way we create counterplay. Now we just continue developing our pieces. Normally, we want to put this knight to c5, but of course, we never want to lose this pawn on e5. This is like the #1 thing you should be careful with in this opening. But bishop c5, I don't see any problems with it for now. This knight is protecting the pawn. The bishop, you always want to develop a new piece with the tempo, creating a threat. So instead of doing something useful for himself, my opponent has to deal with this pawn. I mean, if he is just giving it up, I'm happy to take it. And please, never be afraid of this king being in the center. There are no queens on the board, which means it's just not dangerous for you. There is no risk of getting checkmated, and your king is actually very helpful in the center, covering a lot of squares. Now, he plays rook f1, and you see that both of those rooks are very passive. I can even continue creating threats with knight to g4, typical idea. He plays bishop h4, and then we go f6. And then this knight comes back after h3 to h6 and f7. Whereas our pawn structure is very solid. I actually like that plan a lot. Let's see if there is something wrong with it. The alternative is just to play king e7, rook d8, but this pin would be a little bit annoying, so let's go for this plan. demonstrate how it works, knight goes to g4. Normally, they always play bishop h4, because what else do you do? You can play rook d2, but I can play f6 anyway with the tempo. Now it's important to play f6, otherwise after h3 we have to go backwards, which we never want to do. But here we kind of improve our pawn structure and the knight reroutes back to f7. And then we are free to go king to e7 in a situation where this bishop is not a problem anymore. Against g4 we can even play g5, because otherwise they want to play g5 and disturb us, let's say, with that move. But after g5, like, look at this bishop. It's so passive, it cannot do anything at all. Yes, that's exactly what happens. Let's go for it. We can even think of h5 after knight f7, trying to create some weaknesses over here. And this knight can potentially go somewhere like f4. Very powerful square. I think that I'm already overtaking the initiative here. Even though I'm playing as black, I don't waste any time at all, because I just understand the ideas of this opening very deeply. And that's exactly the kind of result you can expect after my 10-day opening master course, or just go to the playlist. I have a lot of videos covering this exact opening, just different variations depending on what the opponent might do. And you can learn it there, understand the ideas, and implement it in your own games. Knight f7. Now I'm ready for the move h5, and then this g4 pawn would be very vulnerable, but you also don't really want to take it, because the h3 pawn would be a problem. I just need to figure out in which order I do all of that. He can play h4 immediately. Maybe that's the best thing you can do. But even then, h5 is possible. Let's try to calculate it. h5, if he takes, we take here. And then the knight is hanging. He doesn't have time to take my pawns. Yeah, he can go backwards, then we take... Get some counterplay. Let's put it like that. What about knight f8 anyway? Because we are threatening this pawn, and if he takes, we can play bishop takes g4. Again, he doesn't have time to take our pawn because the knight is hanging, and if he defends it, we can even exchange and play knight g5 and be an entire extra pawn up. Yes, he gets a pair of bishops, but the pawn is a pawn. This is very powerful. I'm gonna do that. Also, that helps me to remaneuver the knight to a better square. e6 is generally a wonderful square for the knight in this opening, but if you can develop your knight, your bishop, sorry, in the process so that it's active and this knight is not blocking your bishop, that is even more powerful. I think this is really great for me. Yes, I can play knight h2 to defend it, but that is so passive. If that's the best thing your opponent can do, well, you can never be afraid of that. And that's exactly what he does. Now we need to figure out what's the best way to continue. Do we play knight g6? He takes, we simply can take it back, right? The main thing is, I think, that we always stop the move f4. We never want to allow that. We can also play h6. And then if he takes, just take it back with this pawn, maintaining our pawn structure solid. Because if he takes and we take like that, well, the h7 pawn might not be so great eventually. I like the move h6. Yes, we are wasting one tempo, but we are not actually wasting it, because I find it very useful that we maintain the solidity of this pawn structure. You should be careful with those potential sacrifices, but I think as long as, I don't know, we can even play bishop d7, I don't see anything dangerous that can happen. Otherwise, we are controlling absolutely everything on the board. We are ready for knight to e6, or maybe knight to g6, not to shut down our bishop, like maybe bishop e6 is our next move. And then this typical counterplay, we can even play a5, a4, and then threaten b4. You don't want to be in a hurry with the move b4, because they play knight a4, attacking our bishop. Like, you do not want to give this square so easily. And also, remember, this knight is stupid. Like, this is literally the worst possible square for it to be, c3. So you do not want to voluntarily help your opponent to improve it, right? The most painful thing for my opponent is that he has no idea what to do. Like, literally, my position is great here, even though I'm playing as black, and he struggles to even find a move. Yes, he plays f3, that defends this guy, but what do you do with this knight? You need like 27 tempi to get it to somewhere like f5. By the way, f5 is a very good square for the knight, so we should be careful with not allowing that. Maybe knight g6, I like it, because first, always want to create as many threats for your opponent as possible. And second, if he plays that, then I have this idea knight f4, bishop takes g... Oh, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not even sure. I thought to take with the g pawn and then play knight g5. The knight is really good there. But I also can take with this pawn and play knight to e5. And the e5 is just the best square you can imagine for your knight. Yeah, so I guess it's time for us to decide. Well, he's not obliged to take, but then this bishop on this knight on f4 is so beautiful. Much better than this bishop anyway. Yeah, he takes. But now, which pawn do we take it with? I think we take with the e pawn. I mean, this knight is just so good. One thing is, maybe he can take advantage of this d4 square. It's not simple, but it's theoretically possible. No, I mean, I cannot believe it. I think I have such a huge initiative. Not to mention, I have a pair of bishops here. So I can play knight e5, bishop e6, king e7, rook to d8. I have so many useful moves for me to make. Whereas white, I cannot even imagine what he does. By the way, another advantage is this knight now has 0 ways to get to f5, which is the desired square. If you can transfer the knight from h2 to f5 here, who knows, maybe white is not doing that bad, but it's just not possible thanks to this pawn. And then this knight just has 0 useful job to do. I mean, it defends the pawn, but it's so passive. Just compare the activity of these pieces. And this is all it is about in chess. You need to make this difference in the activity of your pieces against your opponents. And then you need to take advantage of that and just use it to win the game. So now I'm ready to finish my development. Yes, you might be tempted to like immediately go for this pawn, but it's all not that essential because you give some counterplay to your opponent in the process. Instead, I always encourage you to bring every single one of your pieces into the game first, and then if you still want, yeah, please go for that crazy idea. But it's always great to develop everything that you have. Bishop e6 is a very... And notice how powerful this pawn on c6 is. It just stops everything that white can do here. It doesn't have a single idea. This bishop on d3 is also so stupid. It would have been so much better on b3, but then remember we have that idea with a5, a4. So far, this game feels like a positional masterpiece. I'm not allowing my opponent to do anything whatsoever. He plays a4, trying to get at least some activity. I mean, maybe this c4 square. For example, if I play b4 to get here, here, and then here. But even that is not possible because I simply play bishop e6, and together with my beautiful knight, I don't see anything you can do. Maybe he wants to play knight e2, preparing the move knight to d4, and then after bishop e6, playing bishop a6, and then knight d4 becomes possible. So it doesn't matter how great your position is, always be very careful with your opponent's counterplay, because it's never too late to spoil it, especially if you play against a strong opponent. Instead of b4, I can simply play a6. I like this move so much, because it does not allow my opponent to do anything active. If he takes, that only improves my position. Otherwise, I play bishop e6, and I can always and always play the move b4, whenever it suits my plan here. This is total domination. Those pieces, they literally cannot move, they cannot do anything productive. Bishop e2 backwards. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, let's start with bishop e6. Bishop e6 creates a threat, because now, yeah, maybe you still have this knight b1, but it's so passive, you lose so much time. Even bishop e3 at some point becomes an idea, just taking advantage of this p. Although that is not that dangerous for him because he has knight f1, but then I have bishop f2 and this rook has 0 moves to go. This is so crazy. He literally has no space for his pieces. And somebody in the comments tells me, that is not active enough. I mean, if that is not active enough for you, I don't understand what is. I really love outplaying my opponent in the endgame like that more than anything else. And please never be afraid of this endgame. Of course, white can play it better, but if you understand the ideas deeper than your opponent, you're always going to get an advantage. The next step is king to e7 and rook to d8. Yeah, that move. Maybe he goes somewhere here, but again, because I didn't play b4, this is not a problem. Actually, that is a sacrifice, because I can play bishop to f2 right now, actually pick up material. Maybe he just wants to give up some material to get a little bit of fresh air, you know, because it's so tough for him to play this position. But I think we can easily take advantage of that. Like, why not? As if I exchange the bishop for a rook, I'm going to be easily winning the fight for this d-file. I think it's worth it. And I cannot really get any troubles, like if he plays rook d6. Maybe rook d6 is his idea. Then I take, he takes here. I go king f7, rook d6. I can't even take that. No, that cannot be good enough. It's all thanks to this knight on e5. I have the initiative, my opponent cannot do absolutely anything about it. And this is the dream outcome of the Philidor defense, exactly what you should be aiming for. Let's see what he's gonna do. The important thing is just never give your opponent those active chances. Like, for example, if he plays knight to b3, I'm not going to allow him to play knight c5. I'm going to always take it and just keep him in that very passive position. Do not give any active chances. He takes. Yeah, probably with an idea to sacrifice something. Knight takes b5, pawn takes, bishop takes check. This is actually a nice idea. This is how you're supposed to play when you're in trouble in terms of strategic, because strategically you're completely busted. I mean, white here. So he tries to solve his problems tactically. Find some activity, create some threats. That's what you should do. But I think I should be smart here and take this guy first. Yes, you can take the pawn on a6, but that is an entire rook down. That is too much. I'm going to exchange that, play king e7, bring my second rook. I mean, this is way too much. And so you have to take, but now this rook is not that active anymore. And I can simply take, even rook a1 becomes an idea now. Obviously, as you're some material up, you're happy to exchange pieces. This makes your life easier. Okay, he doesn't go for it. I think he wants to play knights to b1. So I'm going to just play king e7, continuing my plan. Doesn't matter how great your position is, never forget to develop all of your pieces. Because it doesn't matter if I have an extra rook, if I don't use it, if it stays very, very passive. Yeah, now it's time to do what I promised. So if I allow this move knight c5, at least he is going to create maybe one threat, maybe two. I don't need that. I just take it. And this knight, remember this pawn on c6, how powerful that is. That stops the entire counterplay that my opponent might have here. Now it's time for rook a1 check. Because if you have an extra exchange, exchanging a pair of rooks usually helps you a lot. Or he has to go backwards, also possible, but every single time you go forward and improve your position and your opponent has to go backwards, that cannot be bad for you. Still, it's not that easy. I mean, my opponent's position is very passive, yet very solid. So to perform this final breakthrough, it's not that easy, and you do not need to be in a hurry. This is one of the most powerful endgame principles. Do not hurry. Just step by step, improve your position up to a point where your opponent just cannot do anything anymore. For example, I can play here king to d6, improving my king. In the endgame, your king performs a very important role. Notice I never made castles in this game, and a lot of players for some unknown reason are afraid of that. But if there are no queens on the board, this is actually an advantage for you, because instead of going all the way from g8, trying to improve my king, now I'm already here in the center. So I want to play king to c5, where I'm going to control so many more squares and make progress from there. If he plays rook d1 check, no problem. I'm going to play king c7, offering him the exchange again, and otherwise I'm going to go here. Yeah, he plays b4, trying to stop that, but that also has some drawbacks, some weak squares now, some weak pawns there as well. I don't know, maybe king to c7, right? because there is no way he's going to penetrate somewhere here. But this pawn, if my knight goes away, might be eventually vulnerable. Okay, he wants to play king to b2. Every single time your opponent makes a move, just stop everything you have thought about and think, what is his idea? Why he makes this move? Do not assume, oh, he doesn't have anything to do, he just makes a random move. Always try to figure out the idea. So to stop that, I want to play rook a2 check, because my rook is extremely active on the second rank. It's actually the best place for your rook to be. And it feels like my opponent doesn't have any single move. This rook cannot move because this is hanging. This knight cannot move, it has 0 moves to go. This king cannot move, it has 0 moves to go. Finally, if you move this bishop, you either lose this pawn or you're just checkmated. Which means it's a total Zugzwang, even though my opponent has a lot of moves. But now I just need to make a waiting move. He's completely lost. And this is truly amazing. I think I haven't seen anything like that for a while. Yeah, the knight couldn't have moved because I just take it, and then next move, checkmate, is coming. You can learn more about this magic opening in this playlist, where I cover so many different opportunities so that you can be prepared against everything. And remember, there is an absolutely amazing offer for 10-day opening mastery. You build a complete lifetime opening repertoire both for white and black and get a full month of live coaching with me completely for free, included in the course. The link will be in the description.